A cautionary tale from Chazaqiel, the Angel of Mists. And I was reading in the little booklet the backstory to Chazaqiel, and it was describing that they really loved their home in the sky, but wanted to be a part of their group, really cared for their group and wanted to follow them down to earth. But were so miserable when they got here, they were neither able to fully descend or reascend back to their home in the sky. And so living a life of in between. And I think that's a good follow up to this theme we've been looking at of a suppression of Aquarian energy. Because we've been looking at that more external force, I suppose, those forces that can influence behavior and such. But what about self-abandonment? Trying to fit in with a group, even though it's not a healthy dynamic. And no judgment, no shame. I'm a recovering people pleaser myself, and it's natural to want to be part of a group. That's how we evolved. If we weren't able to collaborate and cooperate, compromise within our group way back when, it could spell certain death, and you wouldn't survive out there in the wild. And being able to function as an island is a pretty novel concept, actually. And so it might feel like be very anxiety inducing, kind of going against that natural urge to be a part of a group. But if you're self-abandoning to be part of a group that doesn't truly accept you, that's not healthy either. So I wanted to explore that a little bit more, because that can be a really confusing dynamic. So what else about Chazaqiel? I think that'll have a lot of roots in like complex trauma when you're dealing with like people who are wearing a mask that are doing things like performative support, virtue signaling, so making you believe that you actually fit into this group when you don't. And then you make big major decisions based on thinking that you fit in and that you'll be supported and integrated, and then you're just kind of out in the cold. Revenge. Ooh, hefty. It's got that Two of Swords energy. Obstacle. Maybe there's some resentment brewing. Maybe you made a big decision based on thinking you had support when you didn't. Could be that. And I know my experience with PTSD has definitely included, like in the, I think it's the fight category, is where they put like the revenge fantasies and things like that. Those can get really intense, because going through terrible trauma, just unimaginable things, can do a lot to your mind. And I think people can get really shamey, like being the thought police about having those thoughts. But I think it's important to acknowledge that rage, that wrath, because it wants to be heard, because you were hurt. You were done wrong. That's where those come from. It's not coming from nowhere. And acknowledging that, sitting with it, helps move through that. Move through those feelings so they don't churn and build. So what about revenge? Because, this is definitely giving me, like, Outcast energy. And I've reached a place in my life where I'm like, good, I'm glad I don't fit in. I don't want to fit in with people who treat others like an other. That was a very painful road, though, to get to that conclusion. And I know I'm just going to give a trigger warning too. It's a difficult topic, but in regards to people being outcasted, I know we lose a lot of people all the time by their own hands to those situations where they're shunned from the group just for being themselves. And I think it's an important topic to explore, of that urge to fit in even when there might be more compatibility elsewhere. Reveal the truth. Betrayal? I feel like maybe not the full story is getting out. Because an outcast is like a persona being projected onto you, like stereotypes, prejudice, stuff like that. Assumptions. And it's interesting. She's got the Two of Swords, and she's got the blindfold, which in tarot, those would usually be on the same card in the same imagery. So it's like something's not lining up. It's kind of like getting caught up in the you know what happened, admit what you did wrong. There are some people who will just never admit what they've done wrong. Like if you've seen in the political discourse and stuff, they'll post clips of politicians saying things like, you definitely said this, and it'll just be deny, deny, deny. Just blatant evidence. And I heard a quote a while back that we all live in the narcissist delusion. They are the center of the universe. You challenge them. That's the wrong. Not that they did you wrong. Not that they treated you in a bad way. But that you stepped to them. You spoke to power. Something like that. And that can eat you up, being caught in that power dynamic. That's a difficult place to be. Because on one hand, there's that acknowledgement of they are who they are. You can't make them take accountability. And on the other hand, the other sword, Two of Swords, you have been done wrong. And you deserve accountability. How do you bridge that gap? Because even if you did, say, self-abandon, let's say it was for a group that was presenting like they were your friends. They misled you. That's wrong. And it'll get twisted back onto the victim that, oh, you didn't read it well enough. They were being deliberately deceptive. It's that part. People like to skip over that part. Those manipulative types will take advantage of really vulnerable moments to make you feel safe, to make you feel like you can trust them. And the way that just like flew out, the moon in reverse. It's like a sudden revelation of true nature. La Luna. This is the ancient Italian tarot. Revelation of secrets. Because what if this was like, you know, in the context of the Watchers coming down to Earth to watch over the humans, being told that you'll have like some sort of specific role in that, like to ground that down to reality. That could be like a job or something. And then you get down to earth and they don't follow through on their end of the deal. And maybe you trusted them based on you thought they were your friend. And then you'll see the true nature of the manipulation of, well, you should have got it in writing. Like, I guess I should have. And then they're going to blame you for it. It's like, I see you now. I see your true colors. Don't think I'm ever going to forget that. And I saw a, what was it? I think it's on the Mother Wound Project. It's an account I follow on Instagram. But a story about a woman who was financially abused by her parents. She like needed help with a house or something like that, and then that house became like a means of control. That as soon as she dropped everything, moved however far that it was, they were like, actually, we can't pay for it. They bought it, but they like reneged on their part of the deal, and then she's jobless, has this huge payment, and it just like it spiraled into this nightmare. So what about this moon in reverse? And I'm just noticing the card 18, the way that the numbers are, if you look at the top or the bottom, it's either 18 or 81. So some symmetry there, some mirroring, which that has been coming up a lot, mirroring. And that's that manipulation to like get you to trust. Just take the bottom one. 3 of Cups in reverse. These are not your friends. Whoever came to mind, that's what I'm talking about. You know best. You know your situation best. And it hurts. It hurts to realize that they've been pulling the wool over your eyes. And then the cruelty, the audacity to point the finger at you as if you're the problem. Point and laugh. And I think there's a time where that would have worked, that like type of shaming, that type of bullying, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, such. But now we have better vocabulary to understand what they're doing, and that it truly isn't about you. Because that is one of those phrases that felt really cheap to me for a really long time. It's about them, it's not about you. But now that I've been scouring the YouTubeversities and such to learn about these interpersonal dynamics, now I understand why it isn't about me. Actually understand the mechanics a bit more. The problem is they're making it my problem, you know, by doing things that result in tangible harm. But at least if you can get that separation started, get that wall up, you can start addressing the issue in more of a like Queen of Swords manner. Because the Queen's, she's got that water element, that emotional element, still have the EQ, but sharpening the intellect to do right by you, because that's what you deserve. Especially if it was like a big financial something or other, like a house. Yeah, there's gonna be like paperwork. She's holding a book in that Reveal the Truth card. So what about this 3 of Cups? The Magician. Okay. I don't speak Italian. But it was in reverse. That's the manipulator to me. And a big reason for that is actually the Game of Thrones tarot. It's put Baelish in there as that archetype, representative of the archetype for me. But they have an element of all 4 suits. So they know how to twist what they need for the situation. whatever the situation may be. It's very skilled. Could certainly be a wordsmith, you know, from that Reveal the Truth with the book. Yeah, with that storyline of like following the group and then getting caught in the in-between. This is like a group of people deliberately misleading you. And then pointing the finger at you as if you're the problem. Raise that clock chimes. Be like telling you one thing to your face, and then in the background there's whole different conversations going on. And then they think they're the right ones. They're still looking down their nose at other people. Like, that's how you can tell it's a distortion, because that's wrong. Like, by what logic is that okay? That's going to break down pretty fast. And maybe that's what this revenge card is kind of alluding to. With the swords down, those two of swords. It's like, I see you. I see what this is. I see the true nature. You're not fooling me. You're not transferring the blame over unto me for how you chose to manipulate someone. And that's kind of what those techniques reside on. A lot of you self-abandoning. You gaslighting yourself into thinking that it's your fault, that you did something wrong. They're going around deceiving people for whatever reason, which, for what reason? For why? Why are they deceiving people? And on the dice roll I got first house, Uranus, and Libra. So how you show up in relationships. Because I've been talking about Saturn in respect to the Aquarian energy, but I think in modern astrology, Uranus is Aquarius's ruler. And we got two for this. Parasite in reverse. And Colorless Angel. Looking at the faint horse in the background, that's interesting. Year of the Horse. Reminds me of the Morrigan. Parasite, Colorless Angel. But Parasite is in reverse. So not parasitic, like there's no, what is it, symbiosis there? Because Morrigan, I usually talk about like war, prophecy, and such, but sovereignty really is at the heart of her nature. So maybe this is your nature. Preventing you from realizing your sovereignty for some reason. Some people just like control. Some people just have issues. You know, we've been on that theme of like overbearing systems, families, and such. But not wanting you to realize your true nature. And this could be very draining on you. You know, looking at that colorless angel. Is this discrimination? Because I just said colored. Is this like a prejudice thing? Can't have your kind being successful. Something stupid like that. The outcast. Glad I'm different. Responsibility, but it was in reverse. And it's also a 10. Like the Colorless Angel. And maybe they don't want to take responsibility for it, as it came out reversed. And it's such a pretty card. This is a Dark Moon Oracle. But they don't want to take responsibility, maybe for misrepresenting you. Because a true nature being revealed, that can be good or bad, depending on what the true nature is. You know, like people talk about karma in terms of what goes around comes around. What'd you put out there? It's going to have an impact on what your consequences are. So what don't they want to take accountability for? An accountability that's interesting in that dynamic of we all live in the narcissist delusion. Because it's never their fault. There's always some, like, unusual logic trail to follow of, well, I abused you, but you spoke up and you made me look bad, so that's the actual problem. And I think there's, it's called the narcissist prayer, that it walks through that logic pattern pretty well. And we have Five of Cups in reverse. And is this the Knight of Wands? That's what it looks like. So they don't want to take responsibility for not grief. Not tracking that quite yet. Knight of Wands, creative, passionate, can be hot-headed, but somebody's not in grief. Or just because of the way these cards are designed, normally in the Five of Cups, it's 3 knocked over and 2 remain standing. These are all upside down. So everything's out on the table. So they don't want to take responsibility for anything. Their part in anything. Like, it'll be the kind of person who'll say, well, it takes 2 to tango. Like, okay. Number 2. Looking right at ya. What were your moves in this? What did you do? And so maybe things are getting heated up. Some type of argument. That true nature coming out. Because if you're dealing with somebody who is antagonistic, there's, what is it? It's like a hyper reaction to criticism. Like reacting really intensely to that. Not being able to have just a reasonable conversation about, hey, you hurt my feelings, or you did something that was harmful to me, and it turns into this, like, knockdown, drag out fight. And you'll get blamed for the escalation because you brought it up or something. Like, you're just supposed to take the abuse or what have you. And some of this could be woven into your behavioral patterns. If you grew up in dysfunction, it might be repeating patterns in the form of you're tolerating it through no fault of your own. That's how you were conditioned. You were conditioned to believe that was normal. And then as you start getting more life experience, as you start, looking things up on the internet and learning more, then you start pushing back on these dysfunctional behaviors. But you're the bad guy because, oh, you're so different now. You changed. yeah, I'm not tolerating abusive behavior. That's a good thing. If you don't like it, here's your sign. And we've got the World and Two of Cups in reverse. An ending of something. I brought up the work example. Maybe you're leaving a work environment, because this would be intolerable. To be the outcast, to be the scapegoat, to be trying to work with adults who refuse to act grown and take accountability for their contribution for leaving you in like a liminal space, misleading you about, say, growth opportunities, money, whatever type of carrot that got dangled in front of you that made you like stay after hours, work harder, and then the carrot just gets moved further and all you ever get is the whip. And then they act like they don't know. Like they have no idea what could possibly be causing this type of behavior. It's like there's a man in the mirror waiting to tell you what's going on. And I got the Dark Mirror Oracle out just for this. Perfect. So what will help you get out of this? Because their problems are their problems. Their inability to regulate themselves. They've put you, sounds like, in a position where you need to GTFO. And you have to make your own decisions for your own situation. But if you're in a situation that doesn't allow you to fully descend or ascend, like Chazaqiel, that's not the environment for you. You deserve to have a group who accepts you for you, not tolerates you, not accepts the idea of you that they've projected unto you. You are a different person to every single person that you meet. They have a different perception that they view you through, a different perspective, different bias. They know you through different circumstances, different contexts. Reclaiming, recentralizing yourself and your identity in your life is such an empowering thing. That complex trauma can leave you off kilter, off balance. It's like pulling yourself apart at the seams. Fragmentation, yeah. Knew exactly what I was talking about. And the temple of my body, and in reverse. I'll keep that upright for the show, because it's very creepy art. I like it. But I'm getting dissociation from that. Like if you've ever experienced depersonalization, that kind of out of body, like you're being pulled, and fragmentation, that could even be like derealization, because that's the impact, the effect of complex trauma. And I can't remember if I said this before or not, but I got a really wise insight from a therapist a long time ago that all complex trauma includes a relational component to it. Like it can't rise to that complex level without the relational stuff, betrayals, being disregarded, not being seen, heard, accepted. So what about fragmentation and temple of my body? Thought about it. Here we go. Oh, and it spun a little bit. Hera. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. I think it's from Shakespeare, but in reference to her. And she had a rough time with Zeus, because Zeus is known for his escapades. And that's a lot of betrayal. Because I get so irritated. Like, why can't you just break up with someone? If it's not the relationship model or the relationship that works for you, why are you putting someone else through betrayal trauma, through trust issues that they are going to have to carry? Like, you're outsourcing the piss poor coping mechanisms for being unable to face your internal world and leaving them with the burden, with the partner that got cheated on. And sometimes it's just a total disregard for how cruel they're actually being. Because it is. Because that's not only impacting them in the immediate, in the short term, but the long term. It's going to affect relationships in the future. And some people can be so vicious, so malicious, that that's the intent. To cause long-term harm. Now, it takes somebody really sadistic to do that. I think people can achieve betrayal trauma through disregard also. Just being inconsiderate. 10 of Pentacles. Maybe working through, leaving this leads to the 10 of Pentacles. Getting away. And I don't know how long that bridge is. Certainly not just saying, up and quit your job, move out, run. If you're feeling unsafe, make your plan in private to get out of there as quickly as possible. And keep it to yourself. Because you need materials to leave. And that's what a lot of people get caught up in, is the financial abuse. Because that kept me in multiple situations. I was like trapped when it was far beyond time to go. And it kept me in domestic violence longer than I should have ever had to deal with it. That's another reason why I'm really behind this idea of UBI. Because I mentioned that in the last reading, how much of a lifesaver that can be for people with disabilities. Also trying to escape oppressive, abusive situations. Some form of safety net to be able to leave now and not have to tolerate being traumatized, because depending on what your social standing is within a situation, people may just not believe you. And that's why true natures need to be revealed. Because women know. Women know the tricks and the traps and such. And we still just get called crazy and that over emotional, not believed. I'm kind of wondering what the breaking point is going to be, because it's pretty obvious that it's like effort has to be put in to not be on women's side at this point. Being murdered every 10 minutes by an intimate partner or a family member, just by those two causes alone, that's not a world that cares about women at all. And that's probably how Hera felt. Zeus had this reputation in front of everybody's eyes, what he was doing. Just running amok. Queen of Cups. Queen of Emotions. Is that emotional healing? Her chalice? has a lid on it. And all these ones, they're all spilled over, all the contents out. So maybe a little stoicism. Look into that. Little Marcus Aurelius. And it's not like regulate your emotions, regulate your nervous system has become this like buzz term. And regulating your emotions doesn't mean suppressing your anger when anger is the appropriate emotion for the situation. That's that self-abandonment. And that gets trained into us by various social effects too, that being so critical of angry women, and as if men aren't acting the way they be acting. But if anger is the appropriate emotion, frustration, if you've been deceived, betrayed, people are acting like your friends, they certainly aren't. Grown adults acting like teenagers. Be angry. Your emotions aren't there to be liked. They're there to be authentic. I'm not advocating for just going on a rampage and whatnot. But the audacity of someone to criticize you for reacting to what they did. It just, I don't like that. That's more of that gaslighty stuff to try and control you through social perception. You don't want to cause a scene. Bet I don't want to cause a scene. You really gotta wonder who you're stepping to when you start an argument. Why do you think I don't want to cause a scene? Just because I like minding my business? Change it up. And use your discernment. You're responsible for your choices. Because sometimes that's as I've said before, some bullies don't back off until you swing on them. And it's unfortunate when they put you in that situation, but if it's push come to shove and it's you versus me, it's going to be you. We've got is this the Three of Swords? Looks like it. I was wondering if it was Wands, but I think this is the Three of Swords, so heartbreak. Betrayal. Or, the other interpretation I really like of this card is mind over emotions. So that more the Queen of Swords energy. And putting the Queen of Cup more in the background and operating from that more logical place. More calculating, more ruthless, cunning, feminine wiles. Because if you are in some sort of position where you've been outcasted, that has real effects on you. Has real effects on your money, on your mental health, on your life satisfaction, just everything. And you're going to have to find a way out of it. It's unfair that they saddled you with things that can truly leave you with things like depersonalization, derealization, major dissociative issues. And please, if you're struggling, do seek help. Support groups, if you don't have the financial means for therapy, a trusted friend, a real friend, not somebody that's leaving you in a liminal space. Whatever you need to do to find that support to get to the other side of that bridge. And you might actually find connection with a part of yourself that you didn't know was there. The part that is able to stand to power is able to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. And you got to become the strategist to get out of a situation like that, because I think the emotions are important. That's your information to tell you that you've been wronged. Anger, hurt, sadness. And it's just not the place to operate from. It can be the fuel, though. You can accomplish a lot through spite. So, how do we get out of this? Like, what do we need to do for ourselves to either fully descend or ascend? Because you might be going through something like this, and you might be at kind of a crossroads, where you're trying to decide, do I want to go back, reascend to the home in the sky, or fully descend and try something new, try a different path? Because this might be quite the eye-opener for you, that the places and spaces that you're hanging around aren't for you. They aren't in alignment with your authentic self, with your authentic expression. That they were only accepting of an idea of you. So what's the authentic path forward? Because that means something different for every single person. And this could be a lot of, well, you're supposed to act this way. Says who? A bully? Get bent. I'm just so over people just being so mean to people for no reason. Why? Life is already hard. Like, the planet's on fire. Go do something else. People annoy me. It's mostly the inability to stay in one's lane and just being so judgy and assumptive about what other people are doing, when not your business, not your life. Probably doesn't even affect them. Sacrifice. And in reverse. Very Joan of Arc. And I like that line of light right across her left eye. So that's the authentic path forward. Don't self-sacrifice. Recovering people pleaser. And that might be an enormous adjustment for people. So, it was a couple weeks before my birthday this year. I declined a favor, probably for the first time with that person. Because I've always been like the broke friend. So I try to do stuff to contribute to the relationship, And I was just honest about the reason. I didn't offer an explanation, though. It was just, I can't do this because. And it was an immediate trying to override my reasoning and a guilt trip. And that was also the first time I didn't hear from them for my birthday in decades? Like 20 years? Something like that? And haven't heard from them since. First time that I declined a favor. And it was already on the slow fade anyway. I was just a little surprised at how easy that was. To just, I'm not useful anymore. And it's again, like, I'm glad I don't fit in. I'm glad that I don't play these games anymore. Because a past version of me would have got all, like, worked up, all caught up of, oh, are they mad at me? Are they this, that, or the other? I don't care. Be mad about it. Because that was a perfectly reasonable just declining of a favor and I got dropped by like a hot potato, I'm good, actually. And it does take a while to get to that place if you are a recovering people pleaser, but you can get there. And a lot of it has to do with spending time with yourself, at least in my experience. And that's one of those things that gets treated with this perception of like, oh, the weird loner, whatnot. And now I kind of feel like I'm seeing the writing on the wall, because if you don't spend time with yourself, how do you have an opportunity to explore your inner world or reflect on your interpersonal relationships and interactions and such, both like the treatment you're receiving and giving? It's important. Reconnection. Reconnect with self. So many of us do that around midlife. Like, I'm in the midlife astrological transits right now. There's a post I was looking at on channy.com. I like the timeline of your astrological chart, something or other. But it's more in depth about those different life stages and where different planets fall in your chart around different ages and such. It's interesting. And maybe you're picking up things that you put down for one reason or another. For me, I'm back out of the broom closet again. And I spent many well-spent years as an atheist, as an earnest atheist. And I think people have a really difficult time conceptualizing that fluid nature of self. Because I was raised by such black and white thinking. Like, you are supposed to be this way forever. You, school, college, 9 to 5, retirement, maybe, depending on the economy. But it's just this cookie cutter, factory line, assembly line. And it's not what people are like. It's so antithetical to the human spirit. And I'm not saying anybody needs to believe anything or change your beliefs in any particular way. It's about connecting with your authentic expression of self. And if people don't like that authentic expression of self, we all just don't mesh. It doesn't have to be a thing. It doesn't have to be this battle. It's not personal. It's just about healthy dynamics and people finding where they fit and not having to contort themselves to ridiculous expectations. Why would I change for another person when there are 8 billion more who might like me just the way I am? And that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Can't emphasize that enough. It's okay for those things to hurt. I think that might be a big obstacle to leaving some of these relationships, is that pain. It doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing, though. I think this is the page. Fonte. Page of Cups, but in reverse. This is like somebody trying to pull you back into an old version of yourself. It's the, oh, you've changed so much, we don't know, we're worried. Why? Worried about what? Like, that's the big question that I would have. Like, worried about me and my little cards? Is that what we're worried about? Me reading my books and hanging out with my cat? exploring things I haven't got to explore in how long? Now that I actually have the space to, and the mental bandwidth to. Because the individuation process, that's no joke. That is a brutal thing to go through, at least in my experience. Because all that traumatic conditioning, getting through that to the authentic self, definitely not a walk in the park. And there's ebbs and flows that come with it, that there's a lot of psychic energy to recover from, because that's a lot of work, digging around in your unconscious. So you might be spending time in a park by some water. I like the sound of water. But this is like the middle-age transformation that people downplay in the Hierophant. Conflict of the institutional values and the more individual ones. This is like the church versus the witch. And it doesn't have to be a versus. It really doesn't. I think the issue is when people start proselytizing. Just let people be. Let them do how they do. Especially in the United States, we've got the First Amendment. Just leave it alone. But that system of power, like they're so used to being in control. Whether it's an actual church, a friend group, or something. It's like they have an expectation, a misguided expectation, that if people don't adhere to them, they're wrong. And I'm like, okay, who declared you the yardstick by which humanity is measured by? It's a really tough argument with 8 billion people on the planet. I like variety. Knight of Pentacles. Is there another? Yes. Take them all. Knight of Pentacles. Queen of Swords. And Page of Wands. A lot of people involved here at the end. So a group, maybe. Something happening now. Or soon. And Queen of Swords in reverse. That's like the absence of the Queen of Cups energy. Because I label that as like a covert narcissist card. Vulnerable narcissism, even. But probably more covert with the Queen of Swords. Because the Queen of Swords upright, still has that emotional intelligence, still has that human touch. This is pure cold. Went way too far in the Three of Swords. Because the heart aspect, the emotional aspect, it's still there. It's just in the background. It's not the aspect that's being led with. In reverse, it's being done away with. It's just swords. And I don't like the look of this guy. It's kind of giving me like enforcer. So I don't know if someone's gonna try to strong arm you into doing something. I don't know what that would be. Maybe you're going through some sort of legal battle. I think I mentioned a house earlier. And it's like the way they're presenting. like pigeon-chested, puffed up. If you don't take this offer, like, that's it. You'll never get another offer again, or this is really in your best interest to take it. Like, no, it's not, because I can read. I can see what it says. This actually is not good for me. And there's just something like that, like really overstepping. And maybe that's part of this, you're not self-sacrificing anymore. So overstepping their standing, maybe trying to make an offer seem better than it is. But it's just like someone trying to assert authority, or authority doesn't exist for them. Like some sort of implication that you have to do this. You have to bend to their will. Says who? Who are you? I'll report to you. Like, that Archer? You're not my supervisor. Something like that. So maybe somebody's being pushy. And it kind of fits its energy. Especially if you were misled about something. And, like, why would you listen to these people? If you know they've already misled you. What's the saying? A leopard doesn't change its spots? Right as the clock chimes? The clock agrees with me. But I'm confident that if people have shown you your true colors, interesting how that came out. I was going to say their true colors, but your true colors, maybe this is something that really brought out your true nature in a really positive way. Because it might, I think the connotation to that phrase is it brought out the bad parts of you. Maybe it brought out your shadow. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just brought out the parts that people would rather you keep under wraps. Maybe it's because it gets things done. When your shadow comes out, helps you protect yourself, helps you defend yourself. Because the shadow might be that angry, quote unquote, aspect of you that helps you step up to, I don't know, the proverbial arena and address whatever this conflict is. Or it helps you have the confidence to walk away when you know you're not being treated well. Like, this is, you're not coming to the negotiation table anymore. You want to be done right, and anything less than that, not even going to entertain it. And people don't like that. People don't like being stood up to, because it's a lot easier to get away with stuff if you bend to their will. But once you're onto their tricks, I don't know, I guess I'm of the thinking that wrathful compassion is the appropriate response. Because if they're doing this to you, they're probably doing it to other people, or have done it to other people. And if you have the opportunity to, it stops with me, I say put your foot down. That's just my vote. Definitely got to assess your situation as is. Mulan. I think there's a second one under there. Inspiring. And Gideon the Ninth. A movie and a book. Whichever you're feeling. What was the tagline for this? Lesbian necromancers exploring haunted Gothic castles in space. It was really funny. I really liked it. There's 3, and I think a 4th book that either is already out or is supposed to be out sometime. And Mulan, stepping up as an individual, finding a way forward in a pretty impossible situation, having to do the trickster spirit sort of thing, going into disguise. But she connected with her authentic self, that warrior spirit, regardless of how women were perceived at that time. And it did not stop her. The social attitudes towards women did not stop her. And maybe that is the type of attitude you need to take in your own situation of something unconventional, an unconventional path forward that disregards the status quo, the perception. It's kind of like not taking the group's word for what's best, because you can see how harmful the impacts are to the larger picture. They might be trying to hold on to their own personal benefits, and they might be huffy about not being able to gain off of the backs of others. Cool, have a problem with it. For you, though, it's being able to break past that wall of how you're supposed to be. So, overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.